What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I am super excited to be bringing you a brand new ZT model. This is the ZT-0308, a gigantic and very impressive, very exciting knife from Zero Tolerance for a lot of different reasons. We'll get into that. This knife was provided by USA Made Blade. Scott Whittington from USA Made Blade is an excellent person. I've been doing business with him for a long time. Please check out their website, www.usamadeblade.com. I will link this knife and their website right at the top of my description so that you can go check this knife out because you can get it right now. So why am I excited about this? First off, it's because if you've been watching my channel for a while, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I upload every single day. I have been talking about zero tolerance knives and how I'm a huge ZT fan, and as a gigantic ZT fan, I've been so disappointed lately with a lot of models that they've come out with. Now, not everybody agrees with me, but what I've been saying, I've heard it from. I'm certainly not the first person to say it. Is that zero tolerance should be returning not to their absolute roots where everything was just absolutely beast mode, right? But kind of that nice, sweet in-between area from what I remember between 2014 and 2017, where they had some beefiness and some aggressive, kind of overly tactical, but at the same time, it was a little pulled back. The reins were pulled back a little bit, and, they made some good models that were big and, whatever. So, this knife represents, in my opinion, a return to that style in a lot of ways. And I'm really, really excited to talk about it with you guys. Let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy because it is huge. This thing is a monster. From tip to scale, we're looking at just shy of 9 inches, 8.85 maybe. How about the blade length? I mean, in some places you could call it 4 inches. We're going to call it 3.85. Cutting edge, again, absolutely 3.85 inches. A lot of cutting edge there, absolutely. How about some size comparisons? Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, the Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall and looking humorously small, both in overall length and in, height compared to the 0308. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Not Para 3, PM2, goodness. PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. Again, just kind of not really looking all that big. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. Again, much smaller. And last but not least, actually not last, one of the last, Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7.25. I got one more size comparison for you guys, one that I think you'll appreciate. So my buddy, actually this was one of the very first knives to be shown on this channel, and it just so happened to work out because he still got it, and I'm still friends with him here locally. I suggested he buy this because it's discontinued, and it absolutely represents a time when ZT was just, everything was gigantic. So this is the ZT-0303, notorious for being an absolute monster in ZT's line. And as you can see there, the 0308 is actually longer, both in handle and in blade. Perhaps in some areas, height of the 0303 is a little bit more here. But yeah, if this gives you perspective, this is a huge knife. We will be doing a direct comparison or battle video between these two in the very near future. But I felt like it was really important to show you guys that for anybody wondering. So how's the action on this guy? Well, guys, the action is phenomenal. Because of the weight and mass of the blade and the length of the blade, we are getting very nearly fall shut action. The detent is massively strong. Some people are really not going to like that. This is an absolute light switch flipper. It is not push button. Everybody that I have let handle this has wanted to do more of a push button. That point is going to go right into your finger. You can see the jimping up top. I've learned to rest, back here, sort of cat's paw rest on the frame and pocket clip and just pull down. It's still very heavy, but it's alarming the amount of force that blade fires. I think it's pulling down on that, and the detent is definitely heavier than a normal detent. And then the mass and length of the blades, all those things combined, and that thing rockets out. There is absolutely recoil with this guy. You watch here, you can see, I mean, it really shakes my whole arm. That thing fires hard. And it's, some people are really going to like it and some people aren't. I'm not going to say that this thing has a double clutch, but it's very close. So just keep in mind, you know, it took me a little bit to kind of figure it out, but once I did, I became very comfortable, very familiar with it. It's certainly not going to be for everybody, but I kind of, it adds that sort of unnecessary aggressive charm that I have been missing from ZT. You know, it's like, if you're big into like the aggressive knives and you loved the time period where Zero Tolerance was making these big crazy things, you know, just because they could, then yeah, you know, I can save you some time. You're really gonna like this. You can stick around and listen to the rest of the review, right? But if you're not into this kind of stuff, then this isn't gonna, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that everybody needs to be carrying around a gigantic knife, right? I'm just really excited that this thing exists because it's an absolute pullback from ZT going, all right, here, let's make this big crazy thing. Speaking of carry profile, let's go ahead and do that. So this is a thick knife. It's not as thick. I'll say thickness up against the 0303. Blade stock thickness is probably about the same. It's probably about 155 thousandths. You can see there, handle thickness is actually very similar. It's just nowhere near as aggressive in, you know, versus this GIMP festival that we've got going on with the 0303. Let's show it up against some knives that people might, you know, more people might actually have handled. Up against the Spyderco Para 3, you can see there, it's a little bit thicker, but it's not anything crazy. I think people look at knives like this and they expect them to be like Medford thick, and they're not. It's a little bit thicker, right? And you're going to notice it in the pocket over this guy for a lot of different reasons, but this is not a massively Medford thick knife, right? Just to be clear. In terms of height, it is a tall blade because the entire thing is just big. You can see overall length of the knife is a little bit larger than the Para 3 and definitely larger than the, I'm sorry, a little bit larger than the PM2 and definitely larger than the Para 3. I'm having trouble with that today. This knife is going to be a more cumbersome knife than most people are used to, right? Because in my opinion, the Para 3, or sorry, the PM2, what is wrong with me today? The PM2 definitely has an awkward carry profile, but it's okay because of its weight. This guy is long, it's tall, and it's fairly thick, and it's definitely fairly heavy. So if you are the type of person to wear athletic shorts every day, thin pant material, you work in an office, it should go without saying, but this knife is not gonna be the knife for you. You know, if you just like big knives or you wear jeans or you work outside, yeah, this is gonna be more appropriate for that setting. But there's nothing insane. I mean, in terms of like the flipper tab or the shape or whether or not, you know, like there's no excess jimping or anything sticking out where, you know, it's really going to interact negatively with anything else in the pocket other than just the fact that it's so big. If you only carry a knife in your knife pocket and if this is the only thing you're carrying in your pocket and you're wearing jeans, you're going to be fine. Let's go ahead and weigh it because it is not light. We're looking at titanium. That on one side, on the frame lock side, is not milled, and then what I'm assuming is a stainless steel liner that actually is milled, and then a pretty thick piece of G10. And we're looking at a 3.85 inch blade. It's 155 thousandths thick. So the weight's coming in at 7 ounces. That is heavy. That's actually a little bit over my carry preferences. However, with this being basically a return to what, you know, a lot of people loved about ZT, I mean, let's go ahead and weigh this guy. This guy's freaking huge, right? I mean, this guy's a little bit shorter, roughly the same thickness. And I'm going to guess that maybe the blade or maybe the backspacer on this guy is causing it to be an ounce and a quarter heavier. But yeah. There's a lot of love for this guy, right? And it's, again, if you're in the crowd of people who really like those big, monster, aggressive, overbuilt knives, then, you know, maybe these are going to appeal to you a little bit more. But for most people, myself included, it's going to be just a little bit heavy. Now, if I was going to work outside for the day, right, and I was wearing jeans, it wouldn't bother me. But I don't work outside every day, right? I work outside on the weekends sometimes if I'm doing something, fixing something on my house, or we're building something, right? Then this isn't going to bother me, right? But during the week when I work at my office and I'm wearing, even if I am wearing jeans or khakis, I'm probably going to notice it a little bit more, right? It's not a Medford or anything like that, but it's definitely, it's a big knife. I think we have I made that clear? Okay. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of the knife. So we have these, what I call kind of alligator textured scales, and they actually go in a different direction than the texturing that's on this guy. You can see here, these are more horizontal, these are more vertical in terms of how I'm holding the knife. All of this is nicely rounded off. We have what a lot of people think is a proprietary pivot, but I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. The sides of these are flat, which means you can use a wrench to turn it. Now, that's a little frustrating. I feel like the top of this should have just had like a T8 or a T10, because they did, like on the inside here, I've seen Scott Whittington take it apart. You can check out his video if you want to see a disassembly video. They have this oval cutout that makes it to where the pivot is not free spinning. So a lot of you guys are going to be really happy with that. Most people have a wrench lying around, right? The appropriate size wrench. So you can do it, but it's just going to be kind of a pain because there's not a lot of lip sticking up. They didn't want to make this too thick, so there's not a lot of lip sticking up. So you can do it. It is definitely not proprietary. I want to go ahead and smash that rumor right now because I already had somebody mention that in the comments of the unboxing. Not proprietary, but it is less convenient. Not inconvenient, just less convenient than T8 or T10 head. So, but not free spinning. The pivot itself is huge. That little circle right there is the bottom of the screw. Let me put that into perspective here. So the hinderer on the pivot on the hinderer is notoriously a strong pivot setup because it goes all the way through. I mean, it's very much the same thing, right? But the actual screw itself, I think it's at least the same. It might actually be a little bit bigger. That is a very, very strong pivot. No, I'm not suggesting the knife is, stronger than a triad lock. Just, I know there's always going to be triad lock people. The triad lock's stronger. But yeah, it's gigantic. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's part of what I liked about old school ZT is the oversized, almost arguably unnecessary, oversized hardware is really cool. Let's talk about the blade because that's probably the best part of this knife. This blade has so much going for it. Let me go ahead and show you guys this side. 0308 Kai, CPM 20 CV, serial number 1209. Not that that's important. 20 CV, that's fantastic. This is it's sort of a harpoon drop point. There is an enormous amount of belly and it gets, oh, you guys are going to love this. It gets nice and thin behind the edge. Absolutely. Let's see if I can, hold on. Let me get my dead skin off the edge there. But yeah, this thing gets nice and thin behind the edge, especially considering how, big and aggressive. I mean, versus like the 0303, this thing does not get thin behind the edge. It's very thick up here. There's a noticeable difference, despite this actually being taller, between this knife and this knife. This knife is actually going to be a performance cutter. You're not going to be able to shave grapes. Those of you who do that every single day for whatever reason, professional grape shavers, you're not going to be able to do that. But I mean, it's going to be close. It's really, I mean, there's a lot of belly, and you can see how much room there is to drop down here. This flat carries only to maybe, what is that, 30% the length of the blade. Then we have this awesome aggressive swedge. But you can see thickness is carried out pretty far here. So we have a tip that's definitely going to be good at your puncture test, but it's still maintaining a lot of strength. And then everything else is just pure performance. The cutting edge looks fantastic. We have no unevenness whatsoever. It's just a perfect execution, right? Just fantastic. No nicks or rolls or anything like that. It just has that glassy smoothness that I like feeling a brand new knife out of box. Somebody mentioned the other day, they're like, I got a ZT knife that came dull. I have never had a ZT knife come dull. I've had ZT knives that come a little thick behind the edge, right? But let me emphasize this. This knife is neither thick behind the edge nor is it dull. It is razor sharp, and it's pretty, I'm gonna say it's pretty close to what I normally refer to as a laser beam. This is a fantastic blade, and it's really nice to see Zero Tolerance mixing this big aggressive style with a blade that can actually cut, right? I'm not gonna do it for you, but I can guarantee we're gonna see some test videos of this guy doing some pretty serious cutting. There's nothing in the cutting path. It's a flipper, and there's just nothing else. I mean, so you're really gonna make use of pretty much all of that 3.8 inches of cutting edge. So that's fantastic. You can see here, oh yeah, by the way, the jimping is awesome. This is actual functional jimping that's similar to what we see on like Spyderco knives, right? It's nice. It's actually gonna catch your finger. It's not gonna tear it up, right? Like this. This is crazy. I mean, it's cool. It's with the theme of the 0303, but this is just much better. It feels so much more organic, and there's nothing down here, so you're not slamming your finger into this horrible, landmine, barbed wire, cactus field, right? You're not slamming into that. An enormous amount of shouldering wraps all the way around that big stop pin in there, which is really going to help with surface contact and wear over time. So that's just awesome. All of this has been nicely rounded off. I got to admit, I'm with a lot of people. I'm not sure why they went with Coyote Brown or this tan. Perhaps it's because it's so different from everything else that they've done. They really wanted to accentuate how different this knife was. And this color will probably grab more attention than maybe a simple gray or black. That's fine. Some people are going to like this. I can tell you guys this. We're definitely going to see other colors, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we saw black with tiger stripe, right? Or black with stone washed, whatever. I'd love a full tie version, ZT, but I know you're not going to do that because that'd be way too expensive and way too heavy, but I'd love it. But yeah, the color is whatever. It's not my favorite, but we're going to see different colors. And by the way, if you like this knife, but you want something special, if you go and buy one from USA Made Blade, they have custom anodization jobs that are actually, they're authorized to do that from Zero Tolerance. You can get special, unique stuff. Scott Whittington does some really beautiful anode jobs. So check out that link that's in the description. You can go take a look at all the different ones he's got available. Really, really cool if you're looking for something unique. The flipper tab is awesome. Like I said, if you're trying to do push button, it's really going to dig into your finger, but you can see there, the jimping is not super aggressive and everything else has been nicely rounded off. As is the case with the blade, by the way, there are no sharp edges up here. Everything is nicely knocked down. ZT's usual beautiful tumbling, so I'm happy with that. This area is very nice, nothing aggressive, very, very, just comfortable. I mean, truthfully, this knife is very, very comfortable to hold. The perches, I mean, you're not confined to specific spots. Your hand feels free to kind of roam about the cabin, so to speak. Yeah, it's very comfortable. It's very organic, very natural. I honestly feel like I could take this out and use it. It feels like a very trustworthy knife. Speaking of trustworthy, let's go ahead and take a look at the geometry here. The geometry looks great to me. I know somebody's going to ask, so you can see right there. I've said this before. I think it's been quite a while since a Zero Tolerance knife has surfaced with lock geometry issues. Most of what you'll see, regardless of what people claim, most of what you'll see for any knife that's got a lock geometry issue from ZT, it's going to be from a while ago. Unless somebody is forcing it or doing something ridiculous with a frame lock that would fail any lock, right? I don't think you have to worry about that anymore. I think ZT has kind of shadow fixed that, and it certainly doesn't seem to be an issue with this guy. There is no way that thing is going to disengage. I'm putting quite a bit of force on there. Of course, this is a brand new knife, and it's got to go back to Scott. But yeah, that's not going to disengage. I'm not concerned with that at all. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check here on the screws. Go ahead and get out my handy-dandy WIA bit selector and WIA magnetic driver, two items that are very useful, very recommendable, and you can find them down there in my Amazon store, which is also linked. Let's go ahead and pull out T8, because I can tell you guys I'm fairly confident that that's going to be the case. And yep, those are T8. Great job, ZT. Not sure it needs 3 screws or 3 standoffs, but okay, whatever. I'd rather take 3 screws. I'd rather take an extra screw with a T8 head than 2 screws with T6. Any day, no problem. Nice beefy standoffs back here that's going to do the job. Lanyard hole for people who like lanyards. There is a pocket clip position on the other side for left-handed people. Even though it is a right-handed frame lock, lefties, you can still carry this. I'm not a big fan of this pocket clip. It'll do the job. It sticks up a little bit higher on that bill than, oh gosh, do I have the, I don't have the 0920 with me anymore. That pocket clip was the same, but it was bronze, but that bill laid a little more flat. So it was unlikely it was going to catch on anything, but it also, you had to kind of fight it over your pants. This, I've found that I really don't have to fight very much. It honestly, it goes in and out of the pocket super easy. This titanium, though textured, is actually very smooth to the touch. So it provides texturing, right? But it's not aggressive. So this is not gonna fray up your pants. It's gonna be pretty easy to get in and out of the pocket. It doesn't carry deep, but it doesn't carry ultra shallow. There's a decent amount sticking up out of your pocket, no more than a Hinder XM18 or other knives that carry at similar depth. The texture pattern on the titanium is beautiful. I love this. I'll give you guys a nice close-up of that. This is beautiful, and yes, it's actually slightly contoured, which is just great. This knife does not feel blocky. It looks blocky and aggressive, but it's actually, there's a lot of subtle detail in here. Some fine tuning, some fine finish work, or just fine machine work, you know, in the final product. And it's just beautiful. I mean, even down to the lines here, the micro milling lines on the cutout, it's just wonderful. I don't know that they needed two screws here on the steel lock bar insert, but it looks cool. You're right, it looks big and aggressive. There's a little bit of excess here in the cutout just to give it like a different look. It's not flat. So yeah, I mean, I like it. I like everything about the lines here. Lockup is engaging, nice engagement at about 50%. And of course, the knife is perfectly centered. I would expect no less from ZT. So let's talk about the thing that everybody wants me to talk about, right? That I saved to the end. But complex, there's a big hole in the middle of it. What do you think of that hole? Guys, what is people's deal with a hole? There's nothing wrong with the hole. There's so many knives that I've got so many knives that have weird random holes in them, right? I mean, well, I've got this guy right here, and I don't know what else laying around, but that's not an uncommon thing to see in a knife. And it doesn't serve any purpose, but I have not figured out anything that you know, the hole does. I mean, it doesn't create a disadvantage. I mean, if it wasn't there, this knife would look much plainer. I'm kind of appreciative that it is there. It's kind of interesting. They found a way to create an aesthetic feature that it's not purposeful, but it does add enough character to the front and back that it gets rid of this otherwise boring void that would inevitably be there, right? So no, I don't have a problem with the hole. No, it doesn't get in the way, but it might be a gunk trap no more than any other part of the knife that's open. Don't worry about that hole. It doesn't do anything. That's all I have to say about it. So I'm going to move on here. So what's my final verdict on this guy? So two things to keep in mind here. Well, a few things to keep in mind. This is a huge knife. It's a heavy knife. It's clearly not going to be for everybody. But for those of you, including myself, who've been calling for ZT to go back to their roots and make something like this, they did it. And in my opinion, they did an excellent job with it. They did. I mean, they did what people wanted them to do. The knife has an incredibly heavy detent, and you are going to have to get used to doing more of a light switch, right? And it's still going to be a pretty heavy flip. Fortunately, the landing zone back here is nice and smooth. So even though you're coming down with a lot of force, it's not going to mess up your hands, right? There's not a double clutch, but it's close, right? Keep in mind there. Pocket clip's not my favorite thing in the world, but it'll do. So there's no issue there. The last thing here that I'm going to talk about is price. For some people, it's going to be an issue. I feel like it's a little high. It's not completely out of whack. These go for $300 right now. The ZT 0303, I think, went for something like $275 to $280. Keep in mind, this is an assisted knife. I don't really like that, but it's S30V. You're getting CPM 20 CV in this blade. You're getting a bigger blade, more cutting edge, a more performance-oriented cutting edge. You're getting contoured, beautiful, you know, titanium, things like that. To me, there's some extra features here that go towards utility. So while not everybody's going to agree with that price, I'm going to say it's a little high. $280, I think, would have been more like, okay, I get that. But for those of you who like everything, you're like, okay, Complex, I do want a big knife. I am a big fan of ZT, and I have been wanting them to return to their roots, right, for a long time. And I don't really care so much about that pocket clip. I'm okay with a heavy detent, and I like a powerful flip, right? If you're okay with that stuff and you're okay with the price, you are going to be happy with this knife. You definitely are. Me personally, I'm actually considering purchasing one for myself because I haven't had a dedicated ZT in my lineup, and this just brings me so much joy. I am probably going to wait until they've got a black or gray G10 scale. I kind of would, normally I'm not a big like tiger stripe fan on knives, but for whatever reason, it just sort of adds character to ZT knives, and it makes me think nostalgic, of like my nostalgic feelings for ZT are associated with that tiger stripe. So I might wait for something like that, right? But I think this is excellent. I think you guys should check it out. I'm really happy with this. Again, thank you so much, Scott Whittington from USA Made Blade, for sending this guy to me. Expect a direct comparison or battle video between this guy and the 0303 coming up soon, perhaps within a week or so. But guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.